Hi everybody. I have been busy the last couple of days attending Young Living's 2023 convention, and it's just online, which is really nice. So I purchased what's called a virtual ticket. And so I can attend all of the live sessions and get all the product information, and I'm allowed to shop. So that was fun. This morning I shopped for all of the new products. There's one product in particular that has a lot of background that I wanted to share with you if you're interested. Young Living is releasing their original formulation ingredients of Valor. And if you've been with Young Living a long time, you know that Valor was Gary's favorite. It was one of his first blends. And for him, it was the blend that you used before starting your day or starting any other Young Living application of oils. It's grounding and spiritually protective, but I'll get into that a little bit more. What I wanted to give you information on was the background of why the ingredient list changed over the years and how all of that came about. And really, I love the history of this and I love the education. Very, very few people know it. I think because they just really didn't mind. They got, even though the formulation changed, they still got Valor. They could still use it. Everybody was happy, but you guys know me, so I, of course, had to dig into some of the details. So I have a document that I wrote, and I'm going to refer to just a little bit, but I don't have to refer to it a whole lot because I actually followed this Valor story from the very beginning. So, Rosewood. Okay, back in April of 2012, Young Living announced, and this was actually even before April of 2012, Gary had written a blog post where he had talked about his concerns about Brazilian rosewood. And let me make that distinguishment for you right there. Young Living originally sourced their Brazilian rosewood out of Peru. So when I use the word Brazilian rosewood, it wasn't from Brazil, it was from Peru. In April of 2012, Young Living announced that they'll be removing rosewood from 29 of their products due to, and I quote, and I think this was Mary, concerns of resources that are under stress from overharvesting or industry exploitation. Over the past few years, we've become increasingly concerned about the health and population of Brazilian rosewood trees in Peru. These beautiful trees are under tremendous strain due to unscrupulous suppliers, and so they knew the trees were under strain. This wasn't a secret because Peru had started limiting the harvesting of their rosewood trees back in 1967. Rosewood has traditionally been used to make guitars because of how crisp and tight that wood is. It creates a gorgeous sound in guitars. But it was also very popular for furniture and for other decorative objects in the home, specifically because its aroma was beautiful as well as the wood. So in 1962, you couldn't really harvest rosewood in Peru without a certification. Then in 1992, Brazilian rosewood became included in CITES. Now, CITES is the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species of Flora and Fauna. And so this was an international trade restriction organization. So this Appendix 1 is what rosewood got added to, and it indicated that it was a species in some of the greatest danger, and you needed strict permits to harvest it. So I'll make a note here. Most of the rosewood that Young Living was obtaining from Peru, like prior to 2012, was from dead tree stumps. So in 1967, when they stopped the deforestation of rosewood trees, there was a lot of stumps left in these old forests, and Peru was like, you know what, these have been here for a long time, so if companies want to come in, we'll allow easy access permits for them to get the stumps and use the stumps. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder of a permit process to get an actual tree. So Peru was really flexible in allowing companies to obtain the tree stumps from 30, 40 years ago. When Young Living took rosewood out of 29 of those products, you know what they didn't take it out of? Valor. They didn't take it out of Valor because they could still get some rosewood oil, and it was that important in that blend. Now, one of the other blends that they did take the rosewood out of was White Angelica. And, like, the whole basis of White Angelica was rosewood. So, way back in 2012, when they announced that, I started buying old bottles. Look, it's not even opened. I think that one might have been from Amy Tassin, or she sent me the White Angelica. I can't remember, but I have several original old bottles of White Angelica and Valor with the original rosewood in the recipe. It was that important. At the time, I was doing a lot of raindrops on people, and I did not feel right doing an emotional, spiritual technique on people without the rosewood. So I bought as much of it as I could, and I've gone through it over the years, and then we just couldn't get it anymore. They took rosewood out of Gentle Baby and even Joy. They took rosewood out of so many products, but not from Valor. It was that important, and it was the magic sauce. So for a few years, Young Living still put rosewood in some of their products. In 2014, Young Living independently wanted to establish that they were getting the rosewood by the books. So they actually received like a renewal on their CITES permit, CITES, that we talked about a second ago, and everybody kind of advertised it. Diamonds were super excited about it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Artemis from Australia. She is the queen of emotional essential oil usage. And her name's Artemis. She's from Australia. She even announced on her social media page that she was so excited that Young Living got their CITES permits. So it was a big deal. And Young Living wanted to make sure that they were up to date on everything previously as well. So what they did was, in 2014, they wanted to establish that they had all their permits. Everything was legal. Everything was legit. So they launched an internal investigation by hiring outside legal counsel. So they hired a team of lawyers to make sure that their CITES permit in Peru were legit. When they did this, they discovered the permits were in place from 2010 to 2014. Those were valid. Those were legit. That's fine. But starting in November of 2014, some permits were missing. So in 2015, Young Living wrapped up that investigation and reported their results to both the Peruvian government and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. U.S. Attorney John Huber in the District of Utah, who worked the case, stated that the company's decision to conduct an internal investigation voluntarily disclosed the initial violations to government enforcement authorities and cooperate throughout the ensuing investigation is to be commended. So the U.S. attorney that was actually fining Young Living for not having correct permits starting in November of 2014 commended them for doing this investigation on their own. And so a lot of times you'll hear, oh, Young Living is bad, they did this. Young Living is bad, they did that. And every time that's happened, and by the way, it's always sourced from competing companies, I go and I do the research myself. And if it's something that's bad, okay, we should all own up and admit, okay, we could do better, learn our lesson, do better, but in most of the cases, it's just a bunch of crap. And in this case, it is too. So, Young Living admitted, hey, not all of our permits are in place. We're just going to stop putting rosewood in all of our blends. We're not going to try to get it anymore. It's too risky, and we'd rather just the forest be protected. Now, you might be asking, like I did, why don't they just get rosewood from Brazil? It's still under CITES, but permits were super easy to obtain. And that's why you would see rosewood sold from a bunch of essential oil companies. Rosewood wasn't hard to get. First of all, it's one of the most falsified essential oils out on the market. And it's used heavily in the perfume industry, but you can get essential oils of rosewood out of Brazil. And so I was like, why doesn't Gary just go into Brazil and find a really good location, get his rosewood, and then we can still have our blends because I did not want to mess with these blends, and I was actually kind of upset with Young Living that they took them out. And so at that time, I was in a Native American women's healing group, and we would have these monthly meetings. And most of the women were from the Ojibwe tribe. And every month they would teach us how to heal with Native American medicine, but they would do it through stories, which is per their custom. So you could go to these meetings, you would eat cool food, you get to listen to these. They were actually like Native American medicine women. And I loved that group and I missed it a lot. But about a month after Young Living discontinued use of all rosewood, I'm in this meeting and a woman is telling us when not to harvest plants for medicine. And she said after a forest, especially a forest, but after a forest has suffered a great grievance, either by nature, like a lightning storm started a forest fire, or by man, like maybe herbicides were sprayed in the woods to get rid of weeds, that's a grievous event to a tree. And if a forest is grieving, you have to leave it alone for 7 years. You cannot take any medicine out of that forest. And I'm sitting there listening to her, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that's why Gary's not pulling rosewood out of Brazil. That Brazil, more than any other country, has been terrible to their rainforest. Clear cutting, fire removal, because they're a huge exporter of cattle and beef. And they're growing a lot of corn down there. So they've cleared these forests. Of course the forests are grieving. No, you would not want to take an oil that's designed for people who are spiritually or emotionally ill from a forest that at that point is ill. You don't put sick oils on sick people. They're not your typical vitamin and mineral. Oils use different methods for healing. They're mostly emotional and spiritual. So this all made so much sense to me. And then I had a tremendous amount of respect for Gary because Gary chose to change the formulas, risk the backlash, risk the rumors, risk the profit loss, rather than put a sick oil on a sick person. So rosewood is divine wisdom, which is up here in the crown center. It's very high in frequency, so all those super high frequency oils, they're most effective on our higher centers. That crown center is where we receive divine wisdom, is where we hear from God. It's why so many times we hear his wisdom in our sleep, because this is the center for sleep, because it's associated with the pineal gland that makes our melatonin. And also throughout the Bible, I don't know if you've noticed, but God spoke to a lot of people in their sleep. It's high resonance, high frequency, that rosewood is. It's so up there. And so when you take like the tiniest drop of rosewood and you're like, whoo, in a blend, or you put it on and you're like, oh, that's a lot of rosewood. But it's not, it's just a little bit, but that frequency is so high, it's really kind of strong, but in a beautiful way. Because it's floral, it's beautiful. So Valor isn't just strength and courage. Everybody says that. I know everybody says strength and courage. Because that would be your root chakra, your root center. But it's wisdom too. So that original recipe for Valor was blue tansy, rosewood, frankincense, and spruce. Now, your tree oils are also very grounding. They make you stand up tall. They give you a backbone. But the rosewood is also very, very spiritual up in the crown center. Your crown center is where your purpose was put by God. Your other head center is your personality. But your personality isn't up here. Your purpose is up here. So rosewood is like a purpose oil too. Big time. The wisdom and the courage to reach, right? Because it's way up here. Your purpose. So none of these blends were the same without rosewood. Valor was definitely not the same without rosewood. And so it's very spiritually protective as well. Very spiritually protective because it's such a high frequency. So Young Living is working with a new partner farm in Brazil. And this partner farm is growing rosewood. And we are able to work with them to now obtain some of it from them. So automatically I'm like, oh my gosh, Brazilian rosewood. out of Brazil. I don't think we should be doing this. But it's not a sick farm. It's not a grieving forest. As a matter of fact, it's a blooming, thriving, growing forest where they continue to plant new rosewood trees every year. No trees are logged. They're actually just, their branches are trimmed, or they use branches and leaves that have fallen on the ground. And the cool thing about that is with the rosewood oil, the branches and the leaves have the sweetest smelling oil. So it's going to be very beautiful. Yes, even on a guy. Now, the guy who runs this farm, his name is Eduardo Matoso, so I looked him up. He graduated with a degree in physics for his undergrad in 1999, and then he has a master's degree in chemistry from 2005. So, physics and chemistry. He has experience in both of these, physics and chemistry, but his specialty is the chemistry of natural products, medicinal plants, natural products, conservatorship of the Amazon rainforest and all of its plants. How cool is that? He loves conserving the rainforest and natural resources. So he began his own Rosewood reforestation project back in 2012. And they're still under Young Living's Seed to Seal strict requirements. They're still upheld to the Young Living standards, not just in how they treat their soil and their trees, which he was doing a fine job anyway. Hello, that's like this guy's whole life mission. But when they're distilling the oil, they work with Young Living, and they still have to meet the GCMS requirements that Young Living expects for that oil. So it's going to be a true distillation. It's going to be a good end product. And he's been distilling rosewood for over 10 years already. So it's an easy match, and you can have faith and confidence in the Valor original reformulation. I really strongly suggest everybody get a bottle because it's probably going to sell out quickly, and I don't think this guy makes a ton of rosewood oil every year if he's just getting it from the limbs and the leaves. So, thank you for joining me on today's history lesson of Young Living's Rosewood, and I just wanted to ensure that you guys felt confident in this new blend and you could understand the truth in case anybody talked about rosewood in the past. So thanks for joining, and have a good weekend.